Indian economy has experienced a severe deficit in balance of payment. In order to restore internal and external confidence, the country felt the need for initiating macroeconomic stabilization measures related to its monetary policy, fiscal policy, exchange rate policy, and wage income policies. Along with macroeconomic stabilization adjustment program, the government wanted to introduce structural adjustment program. The structural adjustment program includes reforms in industrial policy, public policy, administrative price policy, foreign trade policy, public sector policy, tariff policy, and factor market policy since August 1991. The International Monetary Fund agreed to provide financial assistance to India on certain conditions. As a result of unprecedented crisis, the government agreed on economic reforms and dismantled the license Raj. When Manmohan Singh was appointed finance minister in 1991 by then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, with his deep understanding of economics, Manmohan Singh introduced a series of sweeping reforms to stabilize the economy and pave the way for long-term growth. Dr. Manmohan Singh's reforms were centered around liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which fundamentally changed the Indian economy. Dr. Manmohan Singh's tenure as Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014 witnessed landmark reforms including Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Program, Right to Information Act, Indo-America Nuclear Deal, Right to Education Act, Aadhaar, National Food Security Act, and Agriculture Debt Waiver Scheme. As far as the liberalization is concerned, removing of government control of economic activities. So since 1991, the government control on economic activities have been removed and it is referred as liberalization. As far as the concept of liberalization is concerned, to facilitate the global expansion of India's economy, to promote nation's exports and to address balance of payment challenges confronted by India, to encourage private sector participation in the process of economic development, to enhance foreign direct investment inflows into the country, to promote healthy competition among domestic enterprises, to foster engagement of domestic private enterprises as well as multinational corporations from India. If we observe reforms in various sectors of the economy, as far as the reforms is concerned, at the beginning I would like to focus on industrial sector of the economy. As far as the industrial sector is concerned, all industrial licensing was abolished except for 18 industries. Before 1991, government exercises control over the licensing. Entire licensing authority was in the hands of the government. But as part of economic reforms, the licensing was abolished except for 18 industries relating to security and strategy concerns, social sectors, hazardous chemicals. But actually, at present, only 5 industries are subject to licensing. Reservation of items for small scale industries reduced gradually since 1990. The number of items reserved for small scale industries reduced from 836 in 1996 to 21 at present. As part of industrial reforms, the number of items reserved for small scale industry has been reduced from 836 to 21. Monopolies Restrictive and Trade Practices Act was repealed to eliminate the need for prior approval for capacity expansion by companies. Manmohan Singh government promoted policies to attract private investment in industries, infrastructure, and services. India has witnessed more private sector participation. It has contributed for more economic growth and job creation. As far as the financial sector reforms are concerned, the financial sector witnessed substantial changes to improve efficiency and competitiveness. Cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio have been reduced drastically. These measures allowed the banks to lend money more freely. The licensing requirements for bank branches were eased and interest rates were also deregulated. So before 1991, as per the directions of Reserve Bank of India, scheduled commercial banks used to fix the rate of interest. But as part of reforms, the commercial banks have been given freedom to have their own interest rates based on the market forces. So licensing requirements for bank branches, easing of licensing requirement for bank branches, and interest rate deregulation created a more competitive and efficient banking system. Reserve Bank of India introduced new prudential norms in respect to income recognition, classification of assets, provision of bad debts, and capital adequacy ratio. And commercial banks were allowed under private sector. As part of economic reforms, the government has allowed the private banks also into the banking industry. The foreign institutional investors were allowed to invest in capital markets. Before 1991, foreign institutional investors are not allowed to invest in the Indian capital markets. But as part of economic reforms, the foreign institutional investors were allowed to invest in Indian capital markets. Securities and Exchange Board of India was established to regulate and develop the securities market. Before 1991, the government exercised control over the functioning of the capital market. Now the SEBI was established and SEBI was given the responsibility of regulating and developing the securities market. The National Stock Exchange introduced electronic trading in 1996. It has replaced the traditional open outcry system. Implementation of Depositories Act in 1996. It has ensured the safe and efficient transfer of securities by the depositors. And private mutual funds were also allowed in financial sector of the economy. And if we look into the fiscal reforms, the tax reforms were part of new economic policy implemented in 1991 by Manmohan Singh. The highest marginal rate of personal income tax. Before 1991, the personal income tax was at 56%. So the personal income tax has been reduced from 56 to 40%. Corporate income tax for publicly listed enterprises reduced from 51.75% to 46%. So as because of reduction in corporate income tax, the investment in Indian industries have been raised. The average customs duty was reduced from 200 to 65%. Reforms were made to tax administration, including broadening of the tax base. Tax base has been broadened and the tax structure also has been simplified. As because of broadening of the tax base, simplifying the tax structure, the entire tax system has been improved in India. The next one, the trade and investment policy. Here, As part of trade and investment policy, export houses and trading houses were allowed to import a variety of goods. Actually, the new concept of export houses and trading houses were allowed to import a wide variety of goods, full convertibility of rupee in trade account shows the transactions related to goods, current account related to the goods and services transactions. As far as trade account is concerned, full convertibility of rupee was allowed in 93-94. It has contributed for growth in exports. It is one of the steps taken up by Government of India in order to promote exports from the country. In August 1994, full convertibility of rupee in current account is also allowed. And foreign direct investments are concerned, in 1991, government established a list of high-tech and high investment priority industries. As far as high-tech and high priority industries, high investment priority industries are concerned, in those industries, 51% of the foreign direct investment has been allowed, and the government has set up Foreign Investment Promotion Board. The Foreign Investment Promotion Board was set up to approve foreign investment in certain sectors of the economy. Superstar trading houses were introduced in 94-95 trade policy, and imports were liberalized. The liberalization, as far as the imports is concerned, it has helped the Indian industry to build competitive production possibilities. These are the various reforms in as far as trade and investment policy is concerned. Now, just I would like to focus on the key initiatives by Dr. Manmohan Singh as Prime Minister during 2004 and 2014. Dr. Manmohan Singh introduced measures to strengthen the Indian banking industry. So during the tenure of Prime Minister, he has focused more on strengthening of the banking industry, including the promotion of financial inclusion and digital banking. Dr. Manmohan Singh has taken steps to provide more credit for medium and small scale industries and rural entrepreneurs. So, as because of the credit access to MSME sector and rural entrepreneurs, we have seen remarkable progress in terms of MSME sector growth and in terms of the growing rural entrepreneurs also. And Manmohan Singh played a key role in BRICS grouping, fostering collaboration among the emerging economies. One of the most significant initiatives by Manmohan Singh was the launch of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act in 2005. Through this, he aimed to provide 100 days of assured wage employment per year to rural households. The scheme helped to enhance the livelihood security and empower the people. Right to Information Act. This act empowered the citizens to seek information from public authorities, allowing more openness in overall system. And during the tenure of Manmohan Singh, the Indo-America Nuclear Agreement came into force. This agreement was a landmark move that granted India access to advanced nuclear technology and resources. Right to Education Act came into force in 2005. The Manmohan Singh government enacted Right to Education Act in 2009, declaring education as a fundamental right for every child between the age of 6 and 14. Under this act, quality education has been made accessible to every kid across the country. In order to promote agriculture sector in India, the agriculture debt waiver scheme has been announced in 2008. As part of agriculture debt waiver scheme, the government allotted 71,000 crores. Due to this scheme, the millions of farmers have been benefited. The scheme was dubbed one of the largest farm loan waivers. Aadhaar, Dr. Manmohan Singh government launched another initiative with Aadhaar, which has now emerged as the largest biometric identification system, providing every citizen with a unique ID in India. He launched this initiative in 2010 when the Congress when the Congress government is in power. And the Manmohan Singh also has come up with National Food Security Act, and the National Food Security Act came into force in 2013. It aimed to provide subsidized food grains to approximately two-thirds of Indian population, and it ensures food security for millions of people in India. As far as the socio-economic transformation is concerned, the socio-economic transformation is commonly defined as a process in which an increasing proportion of economic output and employment are generated by sectors other than agriculture. So during Manmohan Singh regime, we have seen socio-economic transformation. The economic output, in terms of economic output and employment, the share of agriculture was declined and the share of remaining two sectors has been improved. Dr. Manmohan Singh transformative policies not only steered the nation away from a severe financial crisis, but positioned India as one of the fastest growing economies. The policies introduced during the tenure of Manmohan Singh as finance minister in the early 1990s and as prime minister from 2004 to 2014 influenced the industrial growth. Not only the industrial growth, the entire overall GDP growth of the economy has been accelerated during Manmohan Singh regime. The average annual growth of India was registered at 4.4% per annum during 1970s and 1980s. We have witnessed 4.4% of growth per annum during 1970s and 1980s. But during 1990s, the average annual growth was recorded at 5.5%. Even in 2000s also, the average annual growth was registered in between 5.5 to 6%. But in the last one decade, the Indian economy has witnessed 7.11% of growth on an average. The 1991 reforms transformed India from a heavily regulated, as I mentioned earlier, before 1991, in Indian economy, there was more regulation. Now, after 1991, Indian economy has become a liberalized economy, and at the same time, we have been transformed from a restricted economy to market-driven economy. India was emerged as a global economic power, and the reforms that were adopted during Manmohan Singh regime boosted the industrial growth, exports, and foreign investments. Poverty reduction is a great success story of the post 1991 period, both in absolute terms and as a percentage of population. The number of Indians in poverty has fallen significantly from 47% in 1990 to 22% in 2010. The economic process, particularly during the reform period, the economic reform process has come a topic of intense discussion among the economists, policymakers, and scholars. Dr. Manmohan Singh reforms laid the foundation for sustained economic growth. These policies attracted foreign investments, created new industries, as because of liberalization, number of multinational companies have entered into India and engaged in the production process. And we have also seen remarkable progress in terms of exports also. And job opportunities have been expanded, poverty was declined, and India was transformed from a restricted economy to market-driven economy. However, significant strides have been made since 1990s. There remains a consensus that the journey of economic reforms in India is far from complete. Critics argue that Dr. Manmohan Singh model is a partial reform model. Partial reform model. According to critics, certain sectors and aspects of the economy have been liberalized, other remains under tight state control. Only some sectors only have been benefited due to the reforms, and some sectors were lagging behind in terms of development. It has led to inefficiencies and stunted growth. Critics argue Dr. Manmohan Singh policies led to growing inequalities. By 2014, the richest 1% of India's population possessed almost 49% of total country's wealth. 49% of total country's wealth was in the hands of only 1% of the richest sections of the people. It clearly reflects growing income inequalities in the country. And during Manmohan Singh regime, we have that as part of economic reforms, privatization has come up in a big way. There was too much emphasis for privatization. Due to too much emphasis for privatization, the redistribution system was weakened, and it has limited the job opportunities, particularly for marginalized sections of the people in the society. Critics also argue that Dr. Manmohan Singh policies encouraged labor flexibility. As because of labor flexibility, growth of employment in informal sector has been raised. As of 2012, more than 90% of the India's labor force was engaged in informal sector, where employees faced a lack of job security and social safeguards. So from this we can say only the proportion of the employment provided by organized sector in the total employment was only 10%. Informal sector alone accounted for 90% of the employment opportunities that are available in 2012. Agriculture sector was overlooked, and the proportion of GDP fell from 32% in 1991 to 17% in 2014. So during the reform period, the agriculture sector was completely neglected. The agriculture contribution to national income also declined from 32% in 1991 to 17% in 2014. According to National Crime Records Bureau, more than 3 lakh farmers suicides occurred from 1995 to 2014. So from between 1995 and 2014, 3 lakh farmers committed suicide due to growing debt burden. During the Manmohan Singh regime, the government has come up with some policies related to contract farming and corporate farming. So policies that promote contract farming and corporate agriculture, these two kinds of farming systems pushed the small scale farmers to marginal farmers, worsening the agrarian crisis. Regions such as Bihar, Odisha, and Jharkhand experienced minimal advantages from economic reforms. So, due to economic reforms, some regions only have been benefited, some regions are lagging behind. So, as a result, we have witnessed regional inequalities across the country. Critics argue that Singh's economic strategies promote crony capitalism, favoring corporate interest at the expense of public welfare. Due to large industrial projects, India lost more than 1.5 million hectares of forest area between 2001 and 2014. So during 2001 and 2014, as because of allowing more industrial projects, we lost nearly 1.5 million hectares of forest area. I am concluding my presentation by highlighting reforms during Manmohan Singh regime changed the course of the economy and its performance because of 1991 economic reforms and continued support for them afterwards. So after that, just we have witnessed second generation reforms and third generation reforms also. So all these reforms transformed the Indian economy as the fastest growing economy.